You've been taught that being kind means saying yes. That being good means not disappointing anyone. That being loved means making everyone happy. So you bend, you adjust, you accommodate, you say yes when you mean no. You smile when you're exhausted. You show up when you want to disappear. And everyone loves you for it. They call you reliable, selfless, the one they can always count on. But here's what nobody tells you. While you're busy making everyone else comfortable, you're slowly erasing yourself. Piece by piece, choice by choice, yes by yes, until one day you look in the mirror and realize you have no idea who you actually are. Because the person staring back, that's not you. That's everyone else's version of you. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. You can't please everyone. You never could. And trying to do it is killing you. Not metaphorically, actually killing you. Your energy, your identity, your sense of self, your peace. All of it is being sacrificed on the altar of other people's comfort. And the worst part, they don't even notice. Because people pleasers are invisible. You've made yourself so easy, so accommodating, so frictionless, that people forget you're even a person with needs. You've become a service, a resource, a convenience, and you did it to yourself. You thought that if you just said yes enough times, if you just showed up enough, if you just made yourself useful enough, then people would love you. And they do. Sort of. They love what you do for them. They love how easy you make their lives. They love that they never have to worry about your feelings because you never express them. But do they actually know you? Do they see you? Do they love the real you? No. Because you've never shown them the real you. You've shown them the accommodating you, the agreeable you, the version of you that bends and shifts and molds itself into whatever shape they need. And here's the painful truth. That's not love. That's convenience. Real love requires knowing someone. And you can't be known if you're constantly shape-shifting to fit other people's expectations. So you end up surrounded by people who care about you, but none of them actually know you. You're lonely in a room full of friends, invisible in a crowd of people who claim to love you, because the you they love doesn't exist. It's a performance, a persona, a carefully crafted version designed to never cause discomfort. And the real you, the one with opinions, boundaries, needs, desires, that person is suffocating, buried under layers of yeses you didn't mean, crushed under the weight of expectations you never wanted to carry, drowning in resentment you're too afraid to express. Because if you stop pleasing people, who will you be? If you start saying no, will they still love you? If you show them the real you, the messy you, the one who has limits and needs and doesn't always want to help, will they stay? That fear keeps you trapped. So you keep performing, keep accommodating, keep erasing yourself little by little, until there's nothing left. Here's what you need to understand. Trying to please everyone doesn't make you kind. It makes you a ghost. A shadow of a person who once had preferences, opinions, boundaries. And the people you're trying so hard to please, they're complicit in your erasure. Not maliciously. Most of them don't even realize what's happening. But they've gotten used to a version of you that never pushes back, never disappoints, never has needs of your own. And when you finally try to reclaim yourself, when you finally say no, when you finally express what you actually want, they'll call you selfish. They'll tell you you've changed, that you're not the person they knew. And they'll be right. You're not that person anymore, because that person was never real. Let me show you what happens when you try to please everyone. Imagine a tree, strong, rooted, growing toward the sun. But every person who passes by wants something from it. One person wants it to bend left to give them shade in the afternoon. So the tree bends left. Another person wants it to grow faster, to provide fruit sooner. So the tree pushes growth it's not ready for. Someone else wants it to be quieter when the wind blows through its leaves. So the tree tightens, holds back its natural sway. Another wants it shorter so it doesn't block their view. So the tree stunts its own height. And the tree tries, it really tries, because it wants to be good. It wants to be loved. It wants everyone to be happy with it. But here's what happens. The tree stops growing toward the sun. It's so busy bending and adjusting and accommodating that it loses track of what it actually needs. Its roots weaken. Its trunk twists. Its branches grow in unnatural directions, and eventually, not all at once, slowly, a crack here, a split there, until one day a strong wind comes, and the tree that tried to please everyone falls. Because it was never rooted in itself. It was rooted in other people's expectations. This is what people-pleasing does to you. It disconnects you from your own center, your own knowing, your own truth. You become so focused on external validation that you lose internal integrity. You stop asking, "What do I want?" and only ask, "What do they want?" You stop checking in with yourself and only check in with others. You abandon yourself in the pursuit of universal approval. And here's the cruel irony: you'll never get it. Because pleasing everyone is impossible. For every person you say yes to, there's someone else who needed you to say no. For every boundary you don't set, there's a part of you that dies a little. For every time you betray yourself to keep the peace, you create an internal war. And that war, it shows up in your body, in the anxiety that wakes you at 3 a.m., in the exhaustion that no amount of sleep can fix, in the resentment that builds under your smile. Your body is trying to tell you something. You're living out of alignment. You're betraying yourself every single day, and your nervous system knows it. That tightness in your chest, that's unexpressed truth. That knot in your stomach, that's unspoken boundaries. That exhaustion that won't go away, that's the cost of being everyone except yourself. People-pleasing isn't kindness, it's self-abandonment. And you can't abandon yourself for others without eventually collapsing. But here's what you need to understand. This pattern didn't start yesterday. It started a long time ago, probably in childhood. You learned that love was conditional. That approval had to be earned. That being yourself wasn't enough. Maybe you had a parent who only showed affection when you were good, quiet, easy. Maybe you learned that your needs were burdensome, that expressing them caused problems. Maybe you discovered that the safest way to exist was to make yourself small, agreeable, invisible. So you learned to read the room, to sense what people wanted, to become whatever would keep you safe. And it worked for a while. But the strategy that protected you as a child is destroying you as an adult. Because you're not a child anymore. You don't need to earn love by erasing yourself. But you're still operating from that old programming, still performing for approval, still terrified that if you stop pleasing people, you'll be abandoned. And that fear is running your entire life. So let me tell you what needs to happen. You need to understand that there are phases to breaking free from people pleasing. And each phase is going to be uncomfortable. Each phase is going to challenge everything you believe about love, kindness, and connection. But on the other side, freedom. Let me show you the path. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to walk you through the 5 stages of what happens when you try to please everyone. 5 stages that most people don't even realize they're moving through. And more importantly, I'm going to show you how each stage destroys a different part of you. Because people pleasing isn't just exhausting. It's not just inconvenient. It's systematically dismantling your identity, your relationships, your health, your future, and your soul, one yes at a time. Most people never make it out. They stay stuck in the cycle, wondering why they feel so empty despite being so loved, why they feel so tired despite doing so much, why they feel so alone despite being surrounded by people. But you're going to understand. And understanding is the first step to freedom. Here are the 5 stages. Stage 1, where you stop knowing who you are because you've become everyone else's version of you. Stage 2, the death of desire, where you lose touch with what you actually want because you've spent so long focusing on what others want. Stage 3, the erosion of energy, where your body starts breaking down because you're giving from an empty well. Stage 4, the resentment build, where anger starts leaking through the cracks of your smile because you can't suppress it anymore. Stage 5, the collapse, where everything falls apart because you've been holding everyone else up while you crumble. And here's the brutal truth. These stages are progressive. You don't just experience one. You move through all of them, one after another, until you either break free or break completely. Most people realize what's happening somewhere around stage 3 or 4, when their body starts screaming, when the resentment becomes impossible to hide. But by then, the damage is deep. The patterns are entrenched, and the path out feels impossible. Because at that point, You've built an entire life around being the person who says yes. Your relationships are structured around your availability. Your identity is built on being helpful. And the thought of changing? Terrifying. Because if you stop being useful, will people still want you? If you start setting boundaries, will they leave? If you finally express your needs, will they call you selfish? Probably. Some of them will. And that's how you'll know who actually loves you versus who just loves what you do for them. But we'll get to that. First, I need you to see yourself in these stages. I need you to recognize where you are right now, because you can't change what you can't see. And most people pleasers are so good at denial, so skilled at justifying their self-abandonment as kindness, that they never wake up to what's happening. So as we go through each stage, I want you to be honest with yourself. Notice where you feel defensive. Notice where you want to look away. Notice where something in you whispers, "That's me." Because that recognition, that's your way out. Not through more pleasing, not through better boundaries while still fundamentally abandoning yourself, but through a complete reclamation of who you actually are beneath all the performance. So let's begin. Let's start with the first loss, the one that makes everything else possible, the loss of yourself. Stage one is where it all begins, the loss of self. And it's so gradual, you don't even notice it happening. It starts small. Someone asks what you want for dinner and you say, "I don't care, whatever you want." Someone asks your opinion and you wait to hear theirs first, then adjust yours to match. Someone needs help and you say yes, even though you're exhausted. One compromise, one accommodation, one small erasure. No big deal, right? Except it's never just once. It's every time, every decision, every moment where you have the opportunity to express what you actually want, and you don't. Because somewhere along the way, you learn that your preferences don't matter as much as keeping the peace, that your needs are negotiable, that your desires are selfish. So you stopped voicing them. And at first it felt like kindness, like maturity, like being a good person. But here's what actually happened. You taught people that you don't have preferences. You trained them to stop asking, to stop considering, to stop seeing you as a person with needs. And now, years later, they don't ask anymore. They just assume you're fine with whatever. And you don't correct them, because you don't even know what you want anymore. That's the terrifying part of stage one. You've said, "I don't care," so many times that you actually don't care anymore. You've suppressed your desires so completely that you can't access them. Someone asks what you want, and you genuinely don't know. Not because you're being polite, but because you've lost touch with the part of you that wants things. You've become a mirror, reflecting everyone else back to them. Shapeless, formless, no substance of your own. And people love this version of you because you're easy. You don't cause problems. You don't have demands. You fit into any situation. You're the friend who's down for anything, the partner who never complains, the employee who never pushes back. But here's what they don't see: you're disappearing. Every time you say, "I don't mind when you do mine," you erase a little more of yourself. Every time you go along with something that doesn't feel right, you betray your own knowing. Every time you prioritize someone else's comfort over your own truth, you abandon yourself. And abandonment isn't something that only happens between people. The worst kind of abandonment is the kind you do to yourself. When you consistently choose others over you. When you consistently silence your own voice to amplify theirs. When you consistently make yourself small so they can feel big. That's self-abandonment, and it's the foundation of people-pleasing. You think you're being kind, but you're actually teaching people that you don't matter. And eventually, you start to believe it too. You start to believe that your role is to serve, to accommodate, to make things easy for everyone else. You start to believe that having needs makes you difficult, that expressing preferences makes you selfish, that setting boundaries makes you mean. So you stop doing all of it. And what's left? A shell, a performance, a person-shaped void that bends and molds to fit whatever space they're given. You're in every room but present in none of them. You're in every conversation but never really heard. You're in every relationship but never fully known. Because the real you, the one with opinions and needs and desires, is buried so deep you've forgotten they exist. And here's the devastating part. You can't get yourself back by thinking about it. You can't remember who you are by trying to recall some past version of yourself. because that person is gone. Or maybe they never existed. Maybe you've been performing your entire life. The only way back to yourself is through discomfort, through saying what you actually think, even when it creates tension, through expressing what you actually want, even when it disappoints someone, through honoring your own needs, even when it means someone else doesn't get theirs met. But you can't do that yet, because you're still in stage one, still believing that losing yourself is the price of being loved. And until you see what that belief costs you, you'll keep paying it. So let's keep going. Let's see what happens when you lose touch with what you want. Stage 2 is even more insidious than stage 1, because in stage 1, you still know what you want. You just don't say it. But in stage 2, you stop wanting anything at all. Your desires don't just get suppressed, they die. You wake up one day and realize you have no idea what brings you joy anymore. You don't know what you like to do, where you like to go, who you actually want to spend time with. You've become so skilled at tuning into everyone else's needs that you've completely lost the signal of your own. Someone asks what would make you happy, and you draw a blank. Not because you're being modest, but because the question feels foreign, absurd even. Happy? You don't think in terms of your own happiness. You think in terms of everyone else's comfort. This is the death of desire. And it doesn't happen overnight. It happens through 1,000 small betrayals. Every time you wanted to leave the party early but stayed because everyone else was having fun. Every time you wanted to try something new but didn't because someone might judge you. Every time you had a dream but buried it because it seemed selfish or impractical or too much. Each of those moments, and your desire learned the lesson. You're not safe to express. So desire stopped showing up. It stopped whispering ideas, stopped sparking excitement, stopped pulling you toward anything. Because what's the point? You're just going to ignore it anyway. So now you're here, functional, responsible, dependable, but completely disconnected from what actually moves you. You go through the motions. You do what's expected. You show up where you're supposed to. But there's no fire, no passion, no aliveness. You're a puppet going through choreographed movements, and you've been doing it so long you don't even remember who's pulling the strings. Here's what makes this stage so dangerous. It feels like maturity. You tell yourself you've outgrown childish desires, that you're being realistic, that wanting things for yourself is selfish, when so many people need you. But that's not maturity, that's martyrdom. And martyrs don't inspire love. People can feel it. The subtle resentment, the quiet self-sacrifice, the unspoken expectation that because you've given up everything, they should appreciate you more. But they don't. Because you never asked them to carry your unlived life. You just assumed that's what love looked like, giving up yourself for others. And now you're empty, resentful, wondering why no one sees how much you've sacrificed. But here's the truth, they don't see it because you hid it. You smiled through it. You said it's fine when it wasn't. You pretended you didn't want what you actually wanted. So they believed you, they took you at your word. And now you're angry that they can't read your mind, that they don't see your invisible suffering, that they don't appreciate sacrifices you never told them you were making. This is what happens when desire dies. You don't just lose what you want, you lose your ability to communicate what you need. You lose your ability to advocate for yourself, to ask for what would fulfill you, to express what's actually happening inside, because you've trained yourself to believe that your desires don't matter, that wanting things is selfish, that a good person puts everyone else first. But you know what happens to people who have no desires? They become bitter. They watch other people live full, passionate, vibrant lives, and they feel cheated. They see people setting boundaries, chasing dreams, prioritizing themselves, and they think must be nice to be that selfish. But it's not selfishness, it's self-preservation. Those people haven't lost themselves. They haven't let their desires die. They protected them, honored them, lived from them. And you're stuck in stage 2, numb, disconnected, going through the motions, wondering why life feels so flat when you're doing everything right. But doing everything right for everyone else means doing everything wrong for yourself. And your body knows it. Which is why we're moving into stage 3, where the cost becomes physical. Stage 3 is where your body starts speaking the truth your mouth won't say. You're tired, not normal tired, soul tired. The kind of exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix, the kind that lives in your bones. You wake up already depleted. You drag yourself through the day. You collapse at night and still don't feel rested. And you can't figure out why. You're eating okay, you're sleeping enough hours, you're not doing anything physically demanding, but you're exhausted. Because energy isn't just physical. It's emotional, spiritual, psychological, and you've been bleeding energy for years. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you leak energy. Every time you smile through discomfort, you leak energy. Every time you suppress what you actually feel to keep the peace, you leak energy. It's not dramatic, it's not visible, but it's constant. And now, years later, you're running on empty. This is the erosion of energy. And it's your body's way of saying, stop. Stop abandoning yourself. Stop giving from an empty well. Stop pretending you're fine. But you don't stop, because you can't. Because if you stop showing up for everyone, who will you be? If you stop being useful, will anyone want you? So you push through. You drink more coffee. You tell yourself you just need to make it through this week, this month, this season. But the exhaustion doesn't go away. It gets worse. Your immune system starts failing. You catch every cold, every flu. Your body can't defend itself because all its resources are going toward keeping you functional. You start getting headaches, tension in your shoulders, pain in your back. Your body is literally carrying the weight of everyone else's needs. And still, you don't stop. You schedule another commitment, take on another responsibility, say yes to another favor, because stopping feels selfish. Taking care of yourself feels indulgent. So you keep going, keep giving, keep depleting, until your body makes the decision for you. You get sick, really sick, or you have a breakdown, or you simply can't get out of bed one day, and everyone's surprised. But you always have so much energy. You're always so strong. What happened? What happened is you finally ran out. You gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left. And now you're here. Stage 3, physically depleted, emotionally bankrupt. And the scariest part, you still feel guilty for not being able to show up. Someone needs you, and you can't help them, and you feel like a failure. Someone's disappointed in you, and you feel like you've let them down. Someone has to do something themselves that you usually do for them, and you feel responsible. This is how deep the programming goes. Even when your body is screaming stop, even when you're literally collapsing, you still feel guilty for not doing more. Because you've tied your worth to your usefulness. And if you're not useful, what are you? Let me tell you what you are. Human. A human being, not a human doing. You have value beyond what you provide, worth beyond what you give, significance beyond your service. But you don't believe that yet, because you've never tested it. You've never stopped giving long enough to see if people still love you when you're not useful. And that's terrifying. So you stay in stage 3, exhausted, hoping that if you just rest a little, you can get back to taking care of everyone. But rest isn't the answer. Boundaries are. Saying no is. Protecting your energy is. Prioritizing yourself is. But you can't do that yet, because you haven't hit bottom. You haven't reached the point where the cost becomes undeniable, where the anger you've been suppressing finally breaks through. Welcome to stage 4. Stage 4 is where the mask starts to crack. You've been so good, so patient, so understanding. You've smiled through frustration. You've stayed calm through disrespect. You've been endlessly accommodating. But something's changing. There's a feeling growing inside you, dark, ugly. Something you don't want to admit is there. Resentment. It starts small. A flash of irritation when someone asks for another favor. A tightness in your chest when someone assumes you'll say yes. You brush it off. Tell yourself you're just tired, just overwhelmed, just need a break. But it's not going away. It's growing. And now it's leaking out in ways you can't control. You're passive-aggressive, making little comments, sighing heavily when someone asks for help. You're snippy, short-tempered, overreacting to small things. You're withdrawing, avoiding, finding excuses not to show up. And you feel terrible about it, because this isn't who you are. You're the kind one, the patient one, the one who doesn't get angry. But here's the truth. You've always been angry. You've just been really good at suppressing it. Every time someone took advantage of your kindness and you said nothing. Every time someone crossed a boundary you never set and you smiled through it. Every time someone expected you to carry their burden and you did it without complaint. You were angry, you just pushed it down, swallowed it, pretended it wasn't there. And now there's nowhere left to push it. You're full. Years of unexpressed anger, decades of swallowed frustration, a lifetime of unspoken truth. And it's all sitting in your chest, pressing against your ribs, demanding to be released. But you can't release it, because that would make you the bad guy. That would mean you're not nice, not kind, not the person everyone thinks you are. So you keep holding it, and it keeps building, and the resentment starts poisoning everything. You resent the people you're helping. You resent their neediness, their expectations, their assumption that you'll always be available. You resent yourself for saying yes, for being weak, for caring what people think. You resent the whole dynamic, the whole charade, the whole exhausting performance of being the person everyone needs. And here's what makes stage 4 so painful. You can't talk about it. Because the moment you express your resentment, you become the villain. But you never said no. You always seemed happy to help. How was I supposed to know you didn't want to? And they're right. You didn't say no. You didn't set boundaries. You didn't communicate your limits. You just kept saying yes and expected them to somehow know you were dying inside. That's not their fault. That's yours. But you can't admit that, because admitting that means taking responsibility for your own betrayal, for all the times you abandoned yourself, for all the times you lied about being fine, for all the times you chose their approval over your own integrity. So you stay stuck, resentful but silent, angry but accommodating, screaming inside while smiling outside. And the resentment starts showing up in your body. Tension, headaches, jaw clenching, stomach issues, skin problems. Your body is literally trying to purge the poison you keep swallowing, but you won't let it. Because letting it out means confronting people, setting boundaries, risking disapproval. So you hold it, and it festers. And stage 4 becomes your new normal, walking around with a smile on your face and rage in your heart, helping people while secretly hating them for needing you, being everyone's safe space while having none of your own. This is the cost of people pleasing. Not just exhaustion, not just loss of self, but deep, corrosive resentment that poisons your relationships and your soul. And if you don't address it, if you don't finally speak your truth and set your boundaries, it leads to the final stage, the collapse. Stage 5 is where everything falls apart, not gradually, not quietly, all at once. You've been holding it together for so long, keeping all the plates spinning. And then something breaks. Maybe it's a small thing. Someone asks for one more favor, makes one more assumption, crosses one more invisible boundary. And you snap. Not a little snap. A complete break. You explode. You rage. You say things you've been holding back for years. Or you don't explode. You stop answering calls. Stop showing up. Stop caring. You disappear. Withdraw, shut down completely. Either way, it's the collapse. The moment when you can't hold the performance anymore, when the cost becomes too high, when something in you finally says, enough, and everyone's shocked. Where is this coming from? You've never acted like this. What happened to you? What happened is you finally stopped betraying yourself. What happened is you finally chose you over everyone else. What happened is you broke free from the prison you built, trying to keep everyone happy. But it doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like destruction, because the collapse isn't clean. It's messy, ugly, painful. Relationships end. People get hurt. Bridges burn. The people who loved the accommodating version of you don't recognize this version. They don't like it. They don't want it. And they tell you so. They call you selfish, changed, bitter, mean, They say you're not yourself, that you need help, that you've lost your way. And part of you believes them. Part of you thinks maybe you have gone too far. Maybe you're overreacting. Maybe you should just go back to how things were. But you can't, because you've seen behind the curtain. You've seen how much you were giving, how little you were receiving, how one-sided all these relationships actually were. You've seen that the people who claim to love you only love what you do for them. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. So the collapse continues. You set boundaries, real ones, hard ones. You say no, a lot, to things you would have said yes to before. You prioritize yourself, your needs, your energy, and you watch who stays. Here's the truth about the collapse. It's not the end. It's the beginning. It's the death of the false self, the performance, the people-pleasing persona. And death always looks like destruction before it looks like rebirth. The relationships that end, those were built on your self-betrayal. They had to end. The people who leave, they never loved the real you. They loved the service you provided. The identity that crumbles, it was never yours. It was everyone else's projection. So yes, it hurts. Yes, it's lonely. Yes, it feels like everything is falling apart. Because it is. The false life is falling apart, so the real one can begin. But you can't skip this stage. You can't avoid the collapse by just setting better boundaries while still fundamentally pleasing people. You have to break completely so you can rebuild from the ground up. So you can figure out who you actually are when you're not performing. So you can discover what you actually want when you're not asking for permission. So you can learn what real love looks like when it's not conditional on your usefulness. The collapse is brutal, but it's necessary, because you can't please everyone and keep yourself. You have to choose. And the collapse is the moment you finally choose you. Not selfishly, not cruelly, not without care for others, but with the understanding that you matter too. That your needs are valid, that your boundaries are necessary, that your life is yours to live. And once you choose yourself, everything changes. Not immediately, not easily, but inevitably, you start to rebuild. But this time you're building on truth, on authenticity, on self-respect. You're building relationships where you're actually known, where you can say no without losing love, where your presence matters more than your performance. You're building a life that's actually yours. And that's what's waiting on the other side of the collapse. Freedom. So where are you? Are you in stage one, slowly erasing yourself one accommodation at a time? Are you in stage two, completely disconnected from what you actually want? Are you in stage three, physically depleted, running on empty, wondering why you can't keep up anymore? Are you in stage four, carrying years of resentment, feeling it poison everything you do? Or are you in stage five, watching everything fall apart, terrified but somehow relieved? Wherever you are, hear this. You're not broken. You're not selfish for wanting to stop. You're not mean for setting boundaries. You're not difficult for having needs. You're human. And humans aren't meant to erase themselves for others. That's not love. That's not kindness. That's not service. That's self-destruction dressed up as virtue. Real kindness includes yourself. Real love has boundaries. Real service comes from overflow, not depletion. You can't pour from an empty cup. You've heard that before. But you didn't believe it. You thought you were the exception, that you could just keep giving, that your capacity was limitless. But it's not. And now you know. So what now? Now you make a choice. You can go back to pleasing everyone, back to performing, back to erasing yourself. Or you can start the painful, beautiful work of reclaiming yourself. It won't be easy. People will be upset. They'll call you selfish. They'll miss the version of you that always said yes. Let them. Their discomfort with your boundaries is not your responsibility. Their disappointment in your self-care is not your problem. Their inability to handle the real you is not your failure. You've spent your whole life managing other people's emotions, carrying other people's burdens, shrinking yourself so they could feel big. And where did it get you? Exhausted, resentful, lost. So stop. Just stop. Stop performing. Stop accommodating. Stop betraying yourself for the comfort of others. And start asking the question you've been avoiding your whole life. What do I actually want? Not what would make them happy. Not what would keep the peace. Not what would make you look good. What do you want? Maybe you don't know yet. Maybe that part of you is buried so deep it'll take time to excavate. That's okay. Start small. Say no to one thing today. One thing you would have said yes to before. Express one preference, one opinion, one boundary. And notice what happens. Notice the discomfort. Notice the fear. Notice the voice that says you're being selfish. And do it anyway. Because reclaiming yourself isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. Every day you choose them or me. And every time you choose yourself, you get a little bit of you back. The you that has desires, opinions, boundaries, needs. The you that's been buried under years of accommodation. That person is still there, waiting, ready to be found. But you have to stop pleasing everyone else long enough to hear them. You have to get quiet enough to feel what you actually feel. You have to get honest enough to admit what you actually want. And then you have to get brave enough to live it, even if it disappoints people, even if it changes relationships, even if it means standing alone for a while. Because trying to please everyone destroys you. But choosing yourself, that saves you. Not selfishly, not cruelly, but truthfully. And the truth is this: you cannot save everyone and yourself. You have to choose. So choose you. Not because you don't care about others, but because you finally care about yourself. And when you do, something miraculous happens. You stop attracting people who need you to be small, and you start attracting people who love you for being whole.